Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business. Released July of 2025. Available on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC platforms. Retailing for $29.99. This is a sequel to Robocop Rogue City, though I think back in the day we would have called this a standalone expansion. The game starts with Robocop seeing that his precinct has been attacked, and worse still, his maintenance chair has been stolen. And that's quite important, as that's where he rests, gets maintenance done, and gets the organic paste that maintains him. His chair was taken by a mercenary group. They plan to use it to somehow hijack OCP. Making the situation worse, they are holed up with the chair in Omni Tower, a new building constructed by OCP that is technically out of police jurisdiction. Robocop will be going in regardless, but he will not receive any support from his fellow policemen. Not that many are left after the assault. So the game takes place almost entirely in Omni Tower, with Robocop fighting his way up the building. So it's something like The Raid or Dread, but with Robocop. Though it is not just Robocop shooting up mercenaries, as this tower is home to many civilians. And as we go up the tower, all the civilians we meet will be happy to tell you that OCP basically lied to them to get them to live in this tower. This game is using the same engine as Robocop Rogue City, and the combat and dialogue are handled exactly the same. So, if you enjoyed the combat in Rogue City, you'll absolutely enjoy it here. But there is something missing this time around. The parts of Rogue City where Robocop would actually have to do police work, where he would have someone report a crime to him. Then you would go look for clues, scan things, talk to other NPCs. You won't be doing that kind of thing here. There are a few occasions where you need to help an NPC, but you don't need to investigate anything. You will simply go to a place. And as part of the story, there is a pseudo-investigation, but as you need to complete it to move the story along, there is absolutely no way you can fail at it. There's only one way it can play out, and you're guaranteed the key card you need to move on. On the other hand, this game does go new places with its combat, as the mercenaries you're fighting are a military force, so the majority of them are wearing body armor. And in fact, there are several different levels of body armor they could be wearing. So the best thing you can do is target places on their bodies that are not armored. So it's oftentimes more effective to go for lag shots than headshots. The mercenaries are also employing several kinds of robots. Flying ones that aren't really that bad. Little round ones that roll up to you and explode. Like moving landmines, basically. They can be a pain when there's a lot of them. And lastly, they have Automos, the robot ninjas from Robocop 3. And they have quite a few of them, but they don't actually pose any kind of threat. Which the presence of Automo here does make me wonder when this game takes place exactly, as there are no references in the game to the events of Robocop 3, or even to the events of the original Rogue City. But we do see that the mercenaries have Automos, and the mercenaries themselves are very reminiscent of the OCP rehabilitators from the third film. Is it possible the remnants of the rehabilitators became this mercenary group? I'm honestly not sure. There are also several portions of this game where you don't actually play as Robocop. There is a section of the game where you play as Alex Murphy before becoming Robocop. It's a fairly brief section and seems to take place during Robocop 1, though sadly we don't get a cameo from Kurtwood Smith or anything. There's also a section where we play as a woman who is actually a secondary antagonist in the game. It fleshes out her motivations for what she's doing, and is quite effective at making her sympathetic. There also is a wonderful section where, as Robocop, you're in control of an ED 209. This may be the first time in the Robocop franchise where an ED 209 was actually effective. And during this section is the only time you get to fight any ED 209s in this game, which does imply that the ED 209 hardware is fine, it's just the software holding them back, as it seems like a much more effective machine when Robocop's in control. One returning problem in this game is that you can pick up other weapons. But you already have the Auto 9, and the ability to modify the Auto 9, so it makes the vast majority of weapons completely pointless. However, there is a section of the game where you don't have the Auto 9. So you are now forced to rely on weapons you probably haven't touched the entire game, which at least gives a point to being able to pick up these weapons, though adjusting to them for just one section is a little jarring. One new problem with Unfinished Business is the skills. They are the exact same skills that were in Rogue City, and you actually start the game with all skills already having 2 skill points in them. Which means from the beginning you feel stronger than you did in the original game, and also have a variety of abilities already at your disposal. But 2 of those skills were essentially only for doing police work, scanning, and deduction. Those skills serve absolutely no purpose in this game, as you aren't doing anything in the way of police work. This also affects the engineering skill, though to a lesser extent, as at least the engineering skill still gives you a bonus when modifying the Auto 9. But if you think you're going to be opening safes and doing other things, no. There's 2 safes throughout the entirety of the game, both of which have their combinations right next to them. So is Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business worth your time and money? Well, if you want more of the combat from the first game, yes it is, as the combat is still just as good this time around, if not somewhat better. The game also manages to still have the same dry and dark satire going that the original Robocop film did, at least to a certain extent. And of course, it doesn't hurt that Peter Weller is back for this game, yet again playing his most famous role. This game is slightly shorter and far more linear than the first game. Part of that is because this game takes place in one night. Or at least one continuous stretch of time. You can't actually see if it's night or day for most of the game. The other part of this is that you don't have nearly as much side content, where the first game took place over multiple days, and during each day, there were multiple extra crimes to investigate, most of which didn't actually have anything to do with the main story. There is occasionally an optional objective for you to complete if you're so inclined, but for the most part, they're completable on your way to the main objective here. You never have the opportunity to go down a side tangent at any point, and whenever you think you might be going down a side tangent, it turns out to be the path you need to take to actually move on. Though I don't view any of this as being deal breakers for this game. At its price tag of $30, it is cheaper than the vast majority of games out there. And much like Rogue City, it does manage to stay true to the spirit of the first 2 Robocop films. So yes, I do absolutely recommend Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business. Please do subscribe, comment, like, and tell your friends.